Welcome to the Delta Source Podcast, your number one source for New Republic approval ratings. It's Good Call Paul and Mr. Legitimacy here, and we're going to discuss how the New Republic is portrayed in Legends vs. Canon.
That is right. It's going to be an interesting one today, folks. We're getting into politics. I know everyone is a huge fan of there being political stuff in Star Wars, so this will no doubt be a popular episode.
And this could be a long one. You, the viewer, can see the time code. You know how long this is going to go, but we have no idea. So bear with us, I guess.
Yes, please do.
Alright, so the New Republic is, in both canons, pretty much founded after the Battle of Endor in 4 ABY.
Yes, correct.
So, we'll start there in 4 ABY. Do you want to begin with what happens in Legends in 4 ABY?
I certainly can. Here's the main thing that happens in Legends in 4 ABY. But most of this comes from the book Truce at Bakura, which was written in the mid-90s. The main thing is that we have the first ever alliance between the Empire and the now New Republic. They form a sort of truce, if you will, at a place called Bakura.
The titular one.
Indeed.
Okay.
They're responding to a threat from the unknown regions known as the Cyruvi Imperium, who are what amount to alien dinosaurs who use technology that sucks people's souls out to power their battle droids.
That's a thing.
That's a thing. And the Republic receives a distress signal from the planet of Bakura, which is near the unknown regions, and the distress signal is intended for the Imperial fleet because the Republic fleet is still over Endor, kind of dealing with the aftermath of the Death Star 2 situation. At which point they go to Bakura to offer aid in the hopes that they can make some allies here. And they end up teaming up with the Imperial garrison, though I think the Imperials do try to backstab them towards the end. Because, And ultimately they do win the allegiance of the Bakurans, which helps them out later when the Bakurans send a fleet to assist the Republic in dealing with the Corellian Rebellion, which we will get to later in this episode, because that doesn't happen until several years down the line. Yeah. But that's the main thing. The book doesn't get that much into the politics of the situation, other than some talk from Mon Mothma and Leia about how it's important for them to extend the hand of friendship to these former Imperials and show that the Republic is here to help. Win hearts and minds, that sort of thing, in order to gain legitimacy in the eyes of the galaxy.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty positive portrayal then.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
This is before we get into. We don't really see much of like the manipulative, political side of things that tends to show up in works that are set a bit later.
Yeah. So in canon, we have a lot of stuff in 4 ABY. 7 books, in fact.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay.
We had The Princess and the Scoundrel, the Aftermath trilogy, and the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. So Princess and the Scoundrel doesn't really have that much depicting the New Republic itself. The main thing is that in the days following Endor. Also, by the way, I guess we should say spoilers for pretty much everything that we talk about here.
Everything in the Republic era. I mean, we're not going to spoil KOTOR, obviously, but... we might anyway. Hey guys, just so you know. No, I'm kidding.
So in the days following the Battle of Endor, after Han and Leia have been married, Mon Mothma is worried about the optics of the newly founded New Republic, and so she implores Han and Leia to take their honeymoon on the fabulous cruise ship, the Halcyon. And that's really the only New Republic related thing we get in that book.
So the Republic is willing to spend government funds to send their officials on lavish vacations.
Yep.
Clearly indicative of corruption.
Yeah, great start.
Yeah.
In Aftermath, we get quite a bit. Their military effort to end the war throughout the next year is inconsistent at best. They're trying to convince systems to join the New Republic, but that brings with it red tape and restrictions where they have to prioritize defending their new member worlds over going to, help liberate non-member worlds. The main one of focus during Aftermath is, of course, Kashyyyk. And within the military, there's a lot of difficulty transitioning from the culture of the rebellion, where it's kind of like anything goes, and you can pull on people's heartstrings to divert forces, uh, and you know, people are having a hard time forgetting that they're not that anymore. They're now the legitimate government. So it leads to some sort of questionable assignments and operations working within the borders of proper conduct and jurisdiction.
Okay.
Um, Also, by design, from the New Republic Constitution, the Supreme Chancellor does not have unilateral authority to order military action. So
Mhm.
already in the Aftermath trilogy in 4ABY, we're seeing any military action having to be approved by the Senate. So we're introducing that level of bureaucracy right away.
Okay.
Um,
Well, yeah.
then pretty much as soon as they secure victory at Jakku and they sign the Galactic Concordance, they also push through the Military Disarmament Act to
Oh, that's not.
reduce the New Republic Defense Force by 90% of whatever they have at the time.
Oh.
And I agree, that's not good because if you
Yeah.
think about it, this is, about a year after Endor when that happens, and, imagine how big is the Rebel fleet at the time of the Battle of Endor.
Yeah, that's
Um,
not. That's. Wow. Okay, that's a risky call, but all right. Bold play, Cotton.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
in the intervening year, they've surely lost materiel and they've captured materiel from the Empire, but it shouldn't be that much bigger or smaller than what they had at the time of the Battle of Endor, and then you reduce that by 90%.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
Yeah. Um, they're also very loose with their rules for how they deal with ex-Imperials, whether defectors or captives. The way they treat them seems to largely depend on how cooperative they are. So you can
Okay.
get pretty good treatment
Yeah.
or pretty bad treatment. And that's most of what we get in the Aftermath trilogy. And then in the concurrent Alphabet Squadron trilogy, which I really enjoyed going through those books recently because you see like
Very good. Yeah.
uh, call outs of things that are happening and you're like, oh, that's at the same time as this during Aftermath. Wow. So in Alphabet Squadron, we see that the New Republic has a prison camp for Imperial defectors that they
Ooh.
don't know what to do with, so they dump them on this planet. And while they're there, it's kind of like no rules, so it's kind of a mess, and they don't have good living conditions.
Yeah.
Um, we also see more of the difficulty in reforming the military culture. Um, with the sort of prime example of that being Alphabet Squadron itself, because it was formed with an Imperial defector as its leader, and they like kept that secret from pretty much everyone that she was a defector.
Right. Right. Oh
Uh,
gosh. Okay. Well.
yeah, surely would not have the clearance that she gets if that went to the higher ups.
No. Certainly not.
Yeah, and that leader, Erika Quell, by the end of the trilogy, she is granted a full pardon for her war crimes during Operation Cinder,
Oh.
which Mon Mothma and Harrison Dula deliberately choose to do that to set a precedent for what can happen with other Imperial defectors. Um, so that could potentially, be like a seed for the amnesty program that we see later on in The Mandalorian.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, that does sound like they're kind of referencing that, which was a neat part of that. That was a really neat episode of that show, to
Yeah,
be
and we'll
honest.
have
I
plenty
thought
to
that was
talk about that
cool.
later.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I have for 4ABY. Let's move on to 5ABY. Do you have anything there?
Okay. Yes. 5 ABY. So in 5 ABY, what we had was not that much from like a governmental perspective, to be honest. This is the Coruscant wouldn't fall till a year or so later, which was the next real big development in the New Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they were fighting the Empire had kind of started to fracture at this point, and so the Republic was trying to take advantage of that as the Empire sort of fell into warlordism.
Yeah.
Uh, but the Republic didn't really make any huge plays against the Empire. There's some video games and comics and stuff. Dark Forces, for example, Dark Forces
Aha.
2 Jedi Knight actually takes place in this year. Um, as do a couple of the Dark Forces games. And the only book set in this year was Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, which deals with Luke taking a New Republic military task force to go fight Imperial Agent Black Hole,
Mm-hmm.
who's from the '70s comics originally.
Ah.
Actually, it's kind of cool they brought him back, but he's an Emperor's Hand who is a super powerful dark side type guy who specializes in mostly deception
Okay.
and stealth, and that he's the one who has like the black armored stormtroopers in
Okay.
his personal guard. So
Nice.
there is a lot of mention of the they get into the ships that are in the task force that Luke's using, and they mention some old Republic era stuff. I think Acclamators get brought up at one point as being part of the Republic task force to attack Mindor, which is kind of cool that they've got some Clone Wars era hardware.
Yeah.
There's definitely no talk of taking the military apart.
Right.
They're not even really. Most of the galaxy still thinks of them as rebels at this point. They're they call themselves the New Republic, but they don't have much legitimacy in the eyes
Mm-hmm.
of the people because they're starting to realize we need to take Coruscant if
Okay.
we're going to be looked at as the legitimate government.
That's
Which
interesting. I guess I didn't mention it during the 4ABY stuff, but that's quite different from what they do in new canon, where they're like, yeah, we can't take Coruscant yet, so we're just gonna make a new capital over here at Chandrilla for now.
That's fair. That's fair. That's definitely another way to take it. Yeah, Legends was definitely there was quite a bit of talk about no one's going to take it seriously unless we have Coruscant. So we gotta take
Okay.
Coruscant. And that's the thing they do in a year. But I'll get to that after you tell me about your part. I guess what happened in the other side of things.
I won't have anything until we get to 7ABY.
Well, then we'll move on to 6, I guess.
Yeah.
6 ABY. This is when Coruscant was captured
Okay.
by the New Republic. Yeah. So, two things. One, the book Rogue Squadron takes place, which is the first in the X-Wing series.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the book Wedge's Gamble takes place, which is the second of the Rogue Squadron series. And well, the X-Wing series, I guess. But Wedge's Gamble features the fall of Coruscant, and Rogue Squadron features the reforming of Rogue Squadron with all new pilots under Wedge Antilles. And
Yes.
it's a pretty pulpy series. It doesn't get too much into the political side of things. However, there are a couple of aspects here which I would like to note. When they're reforming Rogue Squadron, there's a number of people in the squadron. At one point, the pilots all sit down at the table and are talking about why everyone's here, basically. And the consensus is, well, the Bothan guy's here because we want to make the Bothans happy, and they did do the whole Death Star plans thing. So we got to have a Bothan in the squadron.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why are these two people here? Well, this lady is a representative of a Bacta corporation, and the other guy is a representative of the rival Bacta corporation, and we need to keep both those corporations happy because we need to buy Bacta.
This is the so-called Bacta Wars.
This is just before, yes, they're about to kick off. So we need to keep both the Bacta corporations happy because if you're going to prosecute a war, it's good to have medical supplies for your people available.
Yeah.
And there's also some talk about how Rogue Squadron is like a symbol, and that it was Luke's squadron back in the day. So putting Rogue Squadron together here is showing the galaxy that the Republic is serious, and also putting people from different planets and different races in Rogue Squadron is showing that the Republic is intergalactic.
Yeah.
We're not the Empire. We're pro-alien. We are very what's the word I'm looking for? Multicultural, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say global, but it's actually bigger than that.
Right.
Galactic. So that's, and then obviously Wedge's Gamble, the fall of Coruscant occurs, which is largely done through subterfuge. The rogues manage to take out the Rogue Squadron is sent in to infiltrate the planet and manage to knock down the planetary shield using the artificial weather generation of Coruscant. And they blow up a big water reservoir, which causes a huge thunderstorm, which means they have to take the planetary shield down, or it gets like sorted out, I think. Which means the Republic fleet can then land troops and invade the planet.
Okay.
However, it turns out that actually the Empire was deliberately ceding the planet to them because the Imperial military has left a horrible genetic virus called the Krytos virus on the planet, which is designed specifically to kill non-humans. Because the Empire wants to drive a wedge between the various different member states of the New Republic.
Right.
This is also the first chronological appearance of Borsk Phalia. I'm pretty sure.
Ah,
Who is
nice.
because obviously the Thrawn books were written before these books, but in terms of
Right.
in-universe chronology, and Boris Valia is here to represent everything wrong with the New Republic in Legends.
Okay.
He is a political animal who is interested exclusively in manipulating people in order to gain more power, and doesn't
Ah,
particularly care about the good of the Republic.
yeah.
Um, and this is the main like they really throw him in any time that they need someone to be an obstructive bureaucrat in order to make life harder for the heroes.
Okay.
Bork shows up. He's only in this a little bit. Uh, it actually is mentioned when the Imperials are talking about this specific virus that they've designed to target alien species. They deliberately made sure it wouldn't affect Bothans because they thought having Bothans be immune would mean there'd be more Bothans in the Republic, which means Phalia would still be there, and that would actually be worse for the Republic than if it
Oh my
was
God.
infected and dead. So that gives
These
you
are
the idea.
devious plans.
Yes, this is Imperial Director of Intelligence Yasani Isard is the one responsible for this virus, who's a very notable villain from the early to mid '90s. She was in the X-Wing comics, obviously also in the book series,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a very very mean lady, you might
Okay.
say, who's responsible for infecting. And then she moved to take over Typhera and prevent the shipment of Bacta, which means there's no way to effectively cure this artificial disease that she's unleashed on a civilian population in a very very densely populated world, Coruscant,
Yeah.
which means that it's going to rip through the populace and probably kill millions or billions, and hopefully collapse the Republic from within. That
Yikes.
that was the idea with that. So that's what happens in 6 ABY in Legends.
So it sounds like they're, still struggling to gain the legitimacy, and we're seeing the first seeds of splinter factions.
Yes, this is definitely the beginning of, the disadvantage of a democratic government, which is some people don't agree with other people, and that's
Yeah.
tends to slow down the process, basically.
Okay.
That's 6. There you go.
All right. Well, in 7 ABY, the only book we have in canon is Last Shot, and there's not much of note here. We do see, some instances of New Republic stuff happening, but it's not all real important for the big picture. Mostly we just see a little bit more of the bureaucracy going on. So one interesting tidbit of that is that Han is leading a committee for pilots, and they apparently, someone in that committee suggests standardized licensing for pilots, which I see that as another possible connection to Mandalorian, because whatever they hash out with licensing here might be why we see Carson Teva acting as a patrol cop in The Mandalorian.
Huh. Okay, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense from a certain point of view.
So that's pretty much all I have for 7 ABY. My next thing is in 9. So what do you have for
Okay.
7?
Well, I've got some stuff in 7. This is when the Bacta War happens.
Ah.
Yeah, the titular Bacta War, and also some fighting with Imperial warlords as well. So the Bacta War, we don't really see much of the Republic's government's actual actions in this. What we do see is the Republic is unwilling to act when Isard seizes control of Typhera, because technically speaking, she was legitimately elected to be put in charge by the government of the planet, which she wasn't really. She basically paid one of the major corporations to stage a coup, so that she could be put in charge, but the Republic is unwilling to act in any official military capacity because they're afraid it'll make them look strong army, like they're forcing planets to join them, especially with a planet that is crucial to the galaxy as Typhera, which is where
Right.
Bacta comes from. So the Rogue Squadron has to resign their commissions, purchase their X-Wings as private citizens, and basically form a private military group to go retake Typhera, just the 12 of them.
Oh, almost like the Resistance.
It is actually kind of a proto. That's true. That's kind of it's an interesting crossover there. Yeah. And it is sort of like that, a smaller scale, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah. So the Rogues become like a little private volunteer military company for about a year, and wind up retaking Typhera. Spoilers. And then the Republic swoops in at the end of it and says, "Oh, we didn't actually process your resignation papers. You were secretly working for us the whole time."
Oops.
Oops. And also, this planet is ours now. So yeah. Uh,
So much for not looking strong, Army.
yeah. And that pretty much ends the back to war. And then they have to deal with the warlords. Warlord Zinj is the one who gets most coverage, though there are a bunch of others. These are former Imperial commanders who basically splintered off and formed their own like little chunk of the galaxy and tried to rule there. Uh, Zinj is the one who gets the most screen time for sure, because he's in like 3 or 4 Rogue Squadron books, and he's also in his own book, Courtship of Princess Leia.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I say in, he's like the villain. Obviously, he's not in it that much.
Yeah.
But it deals with the Republic fighting these. But here's the thing: at this point, the Empire has kind of lost quite a bit of its legitimacy as well.
Okay.
This is when the galaxy really starts to see the Republic as maybe being more than just a bunch of upstarts, and it's when Imperials kind of stop thinking of it as just the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
There is talk from the Imperial side of we have to stop thinking about it like we're gonna smash these rebels, and have to start thinking about it as like we're gonna have to start fighting dirty and smart, because
Yeah.
we're not the biggest power in the galaxy anymore.
Okay.
And the Republic is thinking, how do we govern the galaxy without becoming the Empire?
Right.
How do we maintain a democracy while at the same time fighting a number of wars against fairly powerful enemies, mostly Imperial warlords? How do we do that without emergency powers acts that curtail the rights of the citizens and lead to, well, Mon Mothma was there for that, so she would know.
Yeah.
How that happened the first time around. They don't want to repeat that.
Right.
So yeah, this is the warlord era.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, and it lasts for quite a while, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 7.
Okay. You have anything in 8?
I do. Courtship of Princess Leia takes place in 8.
Aha.
This
I like
is
that
the
book.
First... You've read that one, you say? You
Yes.
have it. Oh, okay, cool. What'd you think?
I like how wacky it is.
Yes, I agree. It's very wacky, and I find that quite fun. Courtship of Princess Leia. The Republic makes diplomatic contact with the Hapes Consortium,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very reclusive power that was isolationist, was never conquered by the Empire, mostly because they have a lot of nebulas around that were very hard to navigate. Their
Wait.
fleet couldn't have...
Is the consortium the other faction and Empire at war?
That's the Zon Consortium, which is
Okay.
a gang.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the Hapes Consortium, which is there's a few consortiums in the galaxy around
Makes
and about.
sense.
But no, Hapes is a matriarchal society founded by like some space pirates, I think, at one point, several thousand years ago, and it has very difficult galactic geography, which means it's very hard to invade.
Yeah.
But they extend the hand to the New Republic to say, we would like to be a member state of your government. We wouldn't, we don't want you to like replace our government, but we will send people to represent ourselves to you. We will make diplomatic contact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the first time that we see a major external power sending their ambassadors to the Republic to say, we think you are the government now.
Okay.
So it's an important
That's a cool
step
development.
To yeah, it is. It's like, hey, obviously individual planets here and there join the Republic, but this is the first time we've seen like a whole side empire say, we're not joining you, but we do think you are the government.
Yeah.
So we need to have an embassy on your planet. And the book, it doesn't really get too much into the politics because it's too busy having everyone go on Rancor riding adventures on Dathomir. And,
Yes. The fun part.
Which is great, but there is...
Oh.
Oh, sorry, my mic just popped off there for a second. Do I have you again?
Yes.
That's my bad. Anyway, oh yeah, the book mostly glosses over the politics and saves it for the wacky stuff, but there's definitely been some source books and other material published that talks about the diplomatic contact and the importance of the recognition of the New Republic as being the legitimate galactic government.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So next in 9 ABY, this is my next big year to talk about, because as far as we know, all of the Mandalorian is still happening in 9 ABY, or at least, there hasn't been anything that I've seen on the wiki to indicate that it's crossed over into 10. So we're going to talk about stuff from all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. So, we are 5 years after the Galactic Concordance and the Military Disarmament Act, and they have failed to eliminate all of the Imperial remnants.
Oh.
And at this point, it seems like the core worlds of the New Republic essentially just feel like the war is over, and they don't think there's anything important happening in the Outer Rim. So, yeah, just because there's not as much material covering all the time period leading up to this, we don't see as much of the struggle to gain legitimacy. So at this point, they pretty much are the legitimate government, but the Outer Rim doesn't all recognize them because they don't have as much presence there.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
they're still working on decommissioning captured Imperial materiel, which we see on Coruscant with taking apart Star Destroyers. They're also shown to have very dismal prison ships that
Oof. Yeah, I
keep
remember that episode.
they keep the prisoners in these featureless cells with seemingly no consideration for their mental health, and it's patrolled by droids with like one dude on board. So that's a little not cool. By the way, spoilers for 9ABY. This is where we see a lot of the not cool stuff for the New Republic.
Jeez.
Yeah. We also see that the New Republic Navy, if you send them the right signal, they'll just show up and destroy a target with no questions asked.
They won't radio them or anything.
Right.
They won't be like, hello, who's there? No, they won't land troops. They'll just blow it up.
Right.
Yep.
We see that some of their patrols in the Outer Rim have nothing better to do except act as overbearing traffic cops in systems where they say they have jurisdiction, but there's nothing there except a random ice planet.
And 2 X-Wings.
Yeah, and
How long have you guys been here?
And again, they have nothing better to do, so they spend like 16 hours searching for this person that just didn't have New Republic transponder codes.
Yeah.
Whenever Carson Teva visits Navarro as a representative of the New Republic to question about the destruction of the Imperial base, he's treated very coldly. So, whether that's just a Grief Karga thing or whether that's representative of the general population on Navarro, they're not a fan of him there.
No, yeah.
On Coruscant, we also see that the New Republic has implemented its Imperial Amnesty Program, which, get a long list here. It refers to participants by codes instead of names. Great. Subjects them to constant monitoring and mental examinations. Great. And provides them only menial tasks to work on. Also great. They also have no qualms using Mind Flayer technology as part of their reforming, so to speak.
Former Imperial technology that they're using on their prisoners of war, basically.
But it's okay. I've undergone this procedure myself and found it quite refreshing.
It's actually great. No, it's totally. These brainworms, they're awesome. I love them.
And continuing with what began in Aftermath, we see that they will still not allocate any reinforcements to assist non-member worlds while they still have outstanding commitments to defend other member worlds that are in queue before them.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, the whole we'll help you when we get to it. Maybe we shouldn't have disbanded 90% of our fleet, guys. Maybe we could be helping a lot more if we had a fleet still. I don't know.
Right.
Thought? Yeah.
So that's all I have for 9ABY. My next thing is in 18.
Well, big news in 9ABY and Legends. The Thrawn campaign begins.
Why, hey, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. It begins and ends. It lasts about a year. The Thrawn campaign. So this is Heir to the Empire, obviously. This is the first ever book of Legends. Well, there were some stuff in the 80s, but, the first one that's, considered to be properly kicking off the EU.
Yeah.
And at this point, the Republic is an established government. They got senators. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. The galaxy's been not exactly at peace, but not, in the middle of, a hardcore total war for at least a couple years now.
It's at peace enough that you can enjoy some hot chocolate on Coruscant.
Exactly. Enjoy some hot chocolate, kick back, put some of the fleet, in repair so that it'll get promptly stolen. And this is the point where we really start to see we saw Borstphalia before, obviously.
Yeah.
In universe, out of universe, this was his first appearance, in actual real world chronology. But, this is where we see sort of a pattern emerge among the Republic, which is, the Republic is an established government. They got senators. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They got the Republic. They got the seat of power on Coruscant. They this one guy, Borsfalia in this case, uh, throws a wrench into the works every time that the Republic tries to do something about the problem. And in this case, it's him harassing Admiral Akbar because the Imperials dumped some money into like an unmarked bank account in Akbar's name to make it look like he was accepting bribes
Yeah.
from them or something along those lines. And come on, guys. One, he's not human, so like, why would he work with the Empire ever? And he was even a slave at one point.
Yeah.
To the Empire, to Tarkin, who probably didn't treat him very well. How much
Exactly.
money would you have to pay this guy to betray this government that he's bled for the sake of a bunch of people who were literally enslaving him not that many years ago?
Yeah.
But Borsfalia leans on that. It's just like, no, definitely got to put Akbar out.
Right.
And put more Bothans in charge. That's what we got to do to fix this problem. And that really does muck up the works for quite a bit until finally righteousness prevails. Falia is shown to be a big old huckster and fraud,
Mm-hmm.
and the heroes can work together. The Republic military can get its act together and defeat Thrawn.
Very nice.
Or Thrawn's bodyguard can stab him in the back, and
Yeah.
then they could lose the battle because their one guy who was good at tactics is dead.
And it was done so artfully.
It was so artistically done. But that's what happens in 9 ABY. The Republic is the government at this point.
Okay.
But they're having a hard time because of Thrawn, and he's the main threat. The Empire is pretty much scattered at this point. The Remnant is a fraction of its previous strength, and then there's a handful of warlords who are kind of off doing their own thing and not interested in expanding very much. They don't even really get mentioned hardly, except it's just like in compilations and lore books and stuff later.
Okay.
But yeah, that's 9. It's the Thrawn campaign, baby.
So,
Yeah.
because we are kind of far into the time and we have many years yet to cover, since I was going from 9 to 18 ABY, I wonder if we can do like an overview of some of it. So, I know the Hand of Thrawn duology, that sort of marks like
Yes.
the end of the Empire as a faction, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
What year
that
is
point,
that?
that is 20 look, I think it's 20 or it might be 19. It's 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
So between 9 ABY and the end of the Thrawn campaign and the Hand of Thrawn duology, you mentioned that Borskvalia being one guy throw a wrench into the works is a pattern. Is that kind of what happens for the rest of the time, or are there any notable any other notable
Well,
types
there
of portrayals
is
of the
one
New Republic?
big outlier, which is the Dark Empire
Yeah.
comic series, wherein Palpatine comes back and basically destroys the Republic in like off panel, like before the comics even start, and they're like, "Oh no, we have to hide and be rebels again because Coruscant just got taken back over by the Empire while we weren't looking."
I've
It's
read
literally
that
the-
twice, and I still
Yeah.
didn't pick up that he destroyed the New Republic off screen.
It's kind of vague. Basically, the title crawls like a huge Imperial fleet just emerged and took over the galaxy and then started fighting each other. And now they're going to Coruscant to figure out why. Like, the rebels are going to Coruscant to be like, what exactly did we just miss? Where did all our planets go? And that's basically what happens. It's insane. It doesn't fit particularly well in with the rest of the timeline, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, like... And it does feel an awful lot like the sequel trilogy in that, oh no, the Republic just got blown up off screen. Oh
Yeah.
no, Palpatine's back. He has 1 billion super weapons. They're all lasers. They've all got super lasers on them. Oh no, oh he's dead. Again,
Right.
and that's, it's literally episode 9 is just Dark Empire the movie.
Yeah.
Really. Which is kind of cool, I guess, but on the other hand, if they were going to borrow from Legends, maybe don't borrow from the comic arc that a lot of people thought didn't fit very well and didn't like very much.
Right.
And I like Dark Empire. Don't get
I
me
love
wrong,
the
but
art.
yeah, it's really cool, it's stylish, it's silly, but like it doesn't fit that well if you're trying to form a cohesive timeline of, stuff happening that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I can.
It's just
I can
like
kind of understand that.
Palpatine showed up, but it is, the only other real point that should be brought up is the Black Fleet Crisis series, which takes place in 16 ABY. This is the most political / techno thrillery that Star Wars ever got.
Okay.
These 3 books right here. It gets into a whole lot about fleet composition, ship types, ship positioning in battles, and like actual Starfleet tactics when it comes to fighting in space, instead of just being like, and then there was a space battle, which is what
Right.
a lot of books do, which I find to be really cool. But 2, it gets a lot into the um, political aspects of the Republic. For example, it actually mentions the New Republic Common Charter, which is
Mm-hmm.
like their equivalent of the Constitution. It doesn't give a full-on, like full text of the charter, but it does list some of its articles, including
Okay.
Article 5, which is that the chief of state can declare war against a known enemy. Article 11, free navigation through the galaxy, and Article 19, forbidding the assertion of power over a planet with a native population.
Ah.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool that we get at least a sprinkling of that
Yeah. It's
in
neat
there.
that they retained the power to, declare war when needed without having to go through the Senate.
Yeah, that was definitely probably good. Ultimately, it also gets into a lot more stuff about how the Republic fleet works and crunchier stuff about various departments and people working in the cubicles, the data analysts of the Republic, working
Uh-huh.
in their cubicles all day at their computers, looking at drone footage and satellite footage and analyzing intelligence reports and being like, "There's ships missing in this sector. We should send a fleet to investigate that." That
Yeah.
sort of thing. Turns out the Republic is run actually quite a bit like the United States government in that regard, in that they've
Okay.
got a judicial branch and a legislative branch and an executive
Oh.
branch, and yeah, they do. They have the Republic Court of Justice, Republic Senate, and Republic Ruling Council, and then you've got the chief of state, obviously in charge of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
That is
so
really cool
yeah,
to
it's
get all
really
those
quite
details.
neat. And that was the one series that really, really got crunchy about that, which I love. I wish that they would have let Michael P. Cube McDowell write more books in Star Wars. Some of the people, I don't want this to turn into a review of Black Fleet Crisis. Suffice it to say, the books have kind of a mixed reception because there's some other stuff in there that's not so good. But
Yeah.
the stuff with the Republic and the political bureaucracy of it and the military stuff is all very good. It's just that the Luke plot's a little weird and the Lando plot's doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the book.
Okay.
But
That's interesting that
yeah,
the bureaucracy comes off as cool because as I've been detailing and will continue to detail, anytime there's bureaucracy in canon, it's always like a negative.
right, yeah, yeah. And I think it might have something to do with these books were written in the 90s, which was kind of like the peak of, America centric. Like, we beat the Soviets. The government's really cool.
Right.
We're the good guys here. We're going to save the day and help out the whole world. It was pre 9/11.
Yes.
Like, there was definitely a much more conservative culture as far as pro government anyway goes
Yeah.
in the country in which these books were being written.
Right.
Out of universe, which I think has a lot to do with the reason why the Republic was portrayed as being a bunch of people working hard to do a good job and keep people safe and
Yes.
yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's the one really crunchy bit that I wanted to bring up. Because other than
Okay.
that, yeah, it's quite a bit of a couple senators here are objecting to this and they're accusing. I think New Rebellion Phalia tries to accuse Han of planting a bomb to blow up the Republic in that book.
Oh.
Or something like that, which is you really think it's almost as bad as blaming Akbar. It might even
Right.
be worse to try to blame because are you serious? You
This
actually
guy's a
think this
hero of the
God?
rebellion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
helped blow up the first Death. I mean, help blow up both the Death Stars. Actually, they'd still be there
Yeah.
if not for him. So come on. But yeah, that's the gist. There you
Okay.
go.
My next thing is an 18 ABY. It's Poe Dameron Freefall. And there's also not a lot of note here. Really just have one thing is that the New Republic is shown to have a New Republic Security Bureau. And just from the name, this feels like it's supposed to give us, the readers, the impression of succeeding the Imperial Security Bureau, which is not a great look. And that's pretty much all we have there. So,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
So you
Limited, but
said
okay.
your next thing is in 19 or 20 when
With the Palion Gaversom Treaty at
Yes.
the end of the war. Yes, 19 ABY. We get Spectre of the Past, Vision of the Future, the Hand of Thrawn duology. This is another case of man, those Bothans sure do suck, don't they? Because the whole central thrust of the book is the planet Kamas was a pacifist planet, kind of like Alderaan, that was destroyed by orbital bombardment from the Empire, not with the Death Star, just with Star Destroyers,
Yeah.
because its planetary shield was sabotaged. Turns out it was sabotaged by Bothan mercenaries working for the Empire.
Ooh.
And there's a document somewhere.
Oh yeah, the Kamas document.
Kamas document, yes, which has information about who exactly was responsible.
They talk about
for-
it so much.
Yeah. Yes, they do. It's very important to
It's
those.
their big
have you read-
MacGuffin.
Yeah, it is. And we don't even ever quite learn exactly what's on it. But the point is that the Empire is trying to drive a wedge between the Republic forces by being like, yeah, the Bothans are bad, you should fight them, and maybe the Bothans will defend themselves, and maybe some people will side with the Bothans, and there'll be this huge flashpoint at Bothawi that will lead to the Republic collapsing in on itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is the idea that the Empire is trying to do, and I don't think the Kamos document never actually really gets fully revealed. Like, it doesn't actually come up, and it kind of collapses into a non-issue because it turns out the Empire has 4 cloaked star destroyers hiding around Bothawi, just waiting for like the fighting to kick off so that they can sweep up the survivors of the big fleet battle. Because there's a whole bunch of ships hovering over Bothawi. There's Mon Cal cruisers and
Right.
Carillion ships, and everyone's getting ready. Like at any point, there could be a huge civil war kicking off. So
Yeah.
people are selling ships. The Empire's waiting to scoop up the survivors, but it's revealed. Basically, the Empire plays their hand a little too early, and everyone's like, "Oh man, there's 4 star destroyers here. The Empire must be behind this." And then they all work together to beat the Empire, and
Yeah.
turns out it doesn't matter who was responsible for the Kamos massacre. It just matters that the Empire is still bad, and we need to stop them.
It's a very convenient
it's-
resolution.
It is. It's like if you hadn't sent those star destroyers there, you played yourself here, guys. You're trying to be too clever, and it didn't work.
Yeah. It
But
would have.
that
They
yeah,
would have been clever enough if they had the real Thrawn instead of an imposter.
exactly. They had fake Thrawn, con
Yeah.
man Thrawn man, if you will. Though there was a clone of Thrawn, obviously, but he got killed
Yeah.
before he was even able to come out of the tank, unfortunately. I think
Yes.
it's implied in a later book that there's another clone of Thrawn that might have survived, but Legends was ended before we could really get
Yeah.
any conclusion to that. So there you go. That's the
okay.
Kamos crisis in brief.
So, my next thing is in 21 ABY. What does your timeline look like after this whole resolution and treaty with Pelion and the Imperial Remnant? Is there
Well,
like, because the next big thing is the new Jedi Order series, right? So is
Yeah,
there
the
like
Yukon
sort of a
Fog,
time
right.
jump between the next portrayed events?
Kind of, yeah. Basically, all that happens between 19 and I believe the volume invasion happens in 25.
Mhm.
So between those 6 years, there was a whole bunch of young adult books, the Young Jedi Knight series and Junior Jedi Knight series specifically, which talk about the training of Jason and Jaina and Anakin,
Yeah.
and their friends growing up on Yavin and learning how to use the Force and stuff, and learning that drugs are bad and that handicapped people are able to do stuff too.
That's so 90s and I love it.
It was a young adult series, yeah, and that pollution is bad, and that sort of thing, and don't be racist.
Yeah.
Very important too. There was a lot of that, and they're good books, but they definitely do have a lot of like, what have we learned today? Type
Right.
of stuff in them, which fair enough. They were young adult. Anyway, after that, yeah, 25 we get the Yuuzhan Vong invasion,
Let
and
me
I can
go
cover
ahead
that.
and
You do your thing
yeah.
first. Yeah.
So I have 21 ABY, Shadow of the Sith. This is also kind of a short one. So once again, the New Republic is shown to not offer much assistance to anyone that's not affiliated with them. With Rey's parents being on the run,
Right.
like there's some New Republic forces out there, and they like save them from immediate danger. But then they're like, yeah, we can't really do much else for you. Just like go to these coordinates, and you might get some help there. The military leadership at the Adelphi system is also shown to like not be very cooperative or helpful to Luke and Lando, heroes of the rebellion. Because they're just going there to try and get some like information about what happened to this fugitive family out there, and the military leadership is like, sorry, that's classified. I can't tell you, Luke Skywalker.
Sorry, Luke. Yeah, you're not. You're
Yeah.
sorry. We don't know if we can trust you, man. You're not.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So then that leads to Lando having to use his other contact who's there, who's sort of like, he's got bendy moral code. He can, if he thinks it's right to help Lando with this, he'll do some stuff off the books. And this guy slices into the classified information they need, and he gets a lot of information, which also raises large concerns about the New Republic's data security.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hmm.
So yeah, that's all I have in 21 ABY. My next thing is in 28. So go ahead and
Okay, well.
kick us off with the Yuzhan Vong invasion.
Okay, so the Yuzhan Vong invasion. Yeah, here's where things start to get real interesting. So the Yuzhan Vong invasion occurs in 25 ABY, and it effectively, ultimately destroys the New Republic.
Okay.
Not to be too dramatic or anything, but and how it happens is Boris Phalia ends up getting elected chancellor.
Oh
Um,
no.
Leia steps down. There's one real sus thing about this republic, which is that Mon Mothma is the first chancellor. Obviously, nobody would question her right to be.
Yeah.
However, she becomes ill after an assassination attempt, which is one of the things we kind of glossed over in the in-between period.
Oh
It
yeah.
occurs shortly after the Dark Empire. I think it's in like 11 ABY is when that happens.
Yeah.
She steps down and appoints Leia as her successor. There's no vote for this.
Oh. Okay.
Leia's just the chancellor now, which I guess I could understand why Phalia would be like, guys, we are a democracy, right?
Yeah.
It's not an oligarchy, is it? Why are we? But Leia becomes chancellor, and she's chancellor until I think 22 or so when she steps down, and Phalia gets elected chancellor, and he's the worst person to have in charge during the Yuzhan Vong invasion
I can
because
believe it.
he said he's throwing a wrench in things and keeping the military from doing what it needs to do. That's pretty much all that he does. For the whole invasion, he's like, they'll probably stop after they've taken this planet. They only really want to go here. They're not going to keep, they couldn't make it to the core. Nah, they're probably not. We should definitely trust that they're going to stop. Maybe we should do a ceasefire. You think they'd like a ceasefire? That'd be a good idea, probably. To the point that he's so, if he hadn't already been characterized as being, quite so head up his own ass about this sort of thing, then I would call it character assassination. But the fact is, this is how he's been portrayed the whole time. So him behaving like this isn't really that much of a surprise. He does go out with a bang, literally, because when the Yuzhan Vong captured Coruscant, spoilers, the Yuzhan Vong captured Coruscant, because the Republic military is horribly in disarray because they have no effective central leadership at this point because the Chancellor keeps hoping that the Vong will just want to sign a ceasefire eventually.
Right.
They capture Coruscant, they get into his office, and they try to arrest him, and he sets off a bomb that blows up the whole building and kills all the Yuzhan Vong inside it, and himself as well. So at least he goes out pretty cool.
I guess that's kind of a badass finish.
It's a redemption there, at which point the Republic effectively ceases to exist.
Okay.
And is reorganized as the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances, or Galactic Alliance, in 28 ABY.
Oh,
the Galactic Alliance has its first president, Cal Omas, who is an Alderaanian politician. He was a senator, former Alderaanian. Well, obviously, but he was an Alderaanian senator at one point when Alderaan was a thing. He winds up in charge of the Galactic Alliance. It is formed to have the Imperial Remnant incorporated into it.
Oh,
and
what
also
a
to
twist.
have a much stronger central government and to be more proactive and basically less decentralized than the New Republic was.
Okay.
Which is designed specifically to help them win the war. The problem with that is that the Galactic Alliance, being much more centralized and having a much more strong authority, tends to make it kind of swing fascisty towards the later years, and things kind of go off the rails from there. But we're not here to talk about the Galactic Alliance. We're here to talk about the New Republic, and as of 28 ABY, the New Republic is dead. Long live the Galactic Alliance.
Whoa, okay. I did not expect that. I knew, a decent amount about the sort of early ABY years, but yeah, I have next to no knowledge about the whole Yuzhan Vong War, so that is really surprising. I thought it was bad that the New Republic in canon gets taken out in 34 ABY, but it actually outlived the one in Legends.
Yes, they did manage to. Now, granted, they died a lot quicker, but they definitely did live longer in terms of years for sure.
Okay, so I guess before I do my thing for 28 ABY, jumping ahead, do they ever reform the Republic in the future?
Not really, no. So after the Galactic Alliance defeats the Vong, they then have to deal with the Killik Swarm, which is like a massive bug invasion, which the Killiks are mostly fighting the Chiss, so the Alliance is kind of just watching from the sidelines and trying to keep it from spreading into the rest of the galaxy. And then the Second Galactic Civil War happens, wherein the Carillion system and some other star systems as well, including Bothawi, split off into the Carillion Confederation, and declare war on the Galactic Alliance because they think the Galactic Alliance is swinging way too far towards the whole government centralization
Yeah.
uh, thing. So this turns into the Second Galactic Civil War happens between the Carillion Confederation and the Galactic Alliance. Jason Solo leads the Alliance. He becomes like a Darth Kaitis, turns evil,
Mm-hmm.
and turns the government into his own little dictatorship, basically, with him running the show pretty much wholesale. Uh, Ends up assassinating Cal Omus, who was the uh, previous chancellor of the Galactic Alliance, the guy who got elected back during the Yuzan Vong War.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ends up actually assassinating Pelion as well.
Oh,
He was
rip in
like 98
peace.
at the time, so at least he lived a long, good life. Yeah, rip in
Yeah.
peace. Pour one out for him. Because he wants to also take the Empire, which is kind of like a member state of the Alliance, but not like directly under their control, and he wants to basically put the Empire directly under his own control, which I think this leads to the Empire splitting off a bit and
Mm-hmm.
kind of making another. And then Natasi Dala ends up in charge of the Galactic Alliance after the war is over, which is Admiral Dala from the Jedi Academy trilogy, which I think you've
Yeah.
read.
Yes.
He is not a good pick to be in charge. I know this may surprise you. The person who decided to try and invade Coruscant with a force of 3 Star Destroyers is not a good pick to be in charge.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, no. So she
Okay.
makes the Jedi illegal, and she exiles Luke Skywalker, and things just get worse from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole mess. Ultimately, the Galactic Alliance collapses because the new Sith Order emerges in like 130
Uh-huh.
ABY, and
Is this the like Legacy series?
yes,
Okay.
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So there's really not a New Republic anymore.
No, it's done. It's the Alliance now,
That's
and
wild.
yeah.
Okay. Well, jumping back to 28 ABY in canon, we get the novel Bloodline.
Yes.
And what we see here is that the Senate is held up in factionalism between centrists and populists. Those are not like descriptors that I'm prescribing. Those are the terms they use in the book. So that may or may not, reflect a real world definition of those. But there is an attempt to elect a first senator that would have more power to get things done than the Supreme Chancellor. But this effort is derailed multiple times through the infighting, and it ultimately gets shelved when the first person they elect to be first senator is immediately assassinated.
Oh no.
There's some members of the centrist faction that are actually plotting to secede from the New Republic and join the First Order, which really indicates some no confidence in the New Republic to be able to maintain its power and security. And the Senate is, refusing to recognize any threats that Leia has brought forth and exposed to them. This is largely due to her being discredited after her heritage with Darth Vader is revealed.
Okay, yeah.
But honestly, even if that didn't happen, I doubt the Senate would have taken any of these threats seriously or agreed to do anything, because guess what? The two diametrically opposed factions would have had to agree on taking military action for it to happen.
Oh no!
So they
well,
could
we know
use
that's...
their tiny 10% fleet.
We'll use our 10 cruisers to fight you.
Yeah. So that serves as sort of the last straw for Leia, so that she will Nintendo what the New Republic Nintendo don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
form the resistance, right?
Yes. So that's 28 ABY.
Okay.
Next we have 31 ABY. There's the book Before the Awakening. And it has, the three stories, one of Rey, one of Poe, and one of Finn. In the Poe story, we see the New Republic Defense Force is still maintaining a policy of no engagement with the First Order because they're not recognized as a real threat that they're going to act on, and so they have to maintain peace with them. But kind of curiously, because this has defied what I thought I understood about the Resistance and the New Republic, there appears to still be some kind of tenuous link between the New Republic Defense Force and the Resistance.
Are they like funneling them money and ships through back channels, baby?
Not money and ships, no, but it might be that they're like funneling them troublesome recruits.
Oh, funneling in some personnel.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, fair
because
enough.
Poe defies orders and he goes and engages the First Order for this mission that he thinks he has to do. And when he comes back, he's detained. So is his whole squadron because they went along with him. And like they put him somewhere where he's gonna be like questioned or something, and then instead he just meets Leia, and she's like, "Why don't you join the Resistance?" And he's like, "Great, I'll do it." um, so yeah, like if the Resistance was entirely illegal and there was no acknowledgement, I feel like that wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
somehow their penalty system ended up, kind of turning a blind eye as Poe defected.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That sounds a lot. That sounds a lot like what happened during the Backed War on a
Yeah,
larger scale. But yeah, definitely like, oh well, we definitely lost that paperwork. Can't
right.
do anything about that. And even because well, in sorry, small tangent in the Backed War, even like we're gonna have to like somehow fund the purchase of our X-wings because we're technically civilians now. We're gonna have to buy some ships, and
Mm-hmm.
the Republic military says, "Oh well, we have these surplus X-wings that came out of the shop with manufacturing defects, so you can have them." And they say, "What's the manufacturing defect?" Well, they're missing a PL-81. It's an important part for the ship, and they say, "Well, I've never heard of that. What is that?" It's a pilot. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You guys want to go fight ISARD for us? Depose the government of that planet that we don't want to mess
Yeah.
with? So yeah, there definitely is a degree of that in both, I guess.
Okay. So finally, we reached 34 ABY, final year of the New Republic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so here we have the Resistance cartoon,
Yes.
and we pretty much only see the New Republic in the first episode. Really, only like the first 5 minutes.
Hmm.
But the New Republic Navy, because the show opens with the main character Kaz, and he's in the New Republic Navy with some other squad mates, and the Navy has ordered them on a mission to secure intel on the First Order and deliver it to the Resistance.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
it's not like they are striking out on their own to get this information and get it to the Resistance against their orders. They were ordered to do it.
Huh.
So this
Huh.
displays some amount of willingness to, cooperate and help the Resistance in some small way. Um, and interestingly, Kaz has a brief holo call with his father, who's a senator, and he refers to the Resistance as those extremists, which, perhaps hints at
Oh.
sentiments shared by others in the New Republic.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, and then finally we have The Force Awakens, where, we see the Hosnian Cataclysm ending the New
Yeah.
Republic with the shot from Starkiller Base. But I found another interesting tidbit. This is something that I only got from the wiki. Um, apparently, according to the Force Awakens Visual Dictionary, the New Republic Defense Force did officially tolerate the Resistance, but
Hmm.
that appears to be the extent of the relationship. So that is
Okay.
sort of why we have these small connections where, insubordinate people can be sent off to the Resistance, or you can have a mission that's supposed to be a handoff of intel to the Resistance, because I guess, at least according to the Defense Force, the Resistance was not totally bad. I
Hmm.
still don't know if the Resistance was illegal. I feel like it was illegal, but at least they
Yeah.
weren't, hunting them down and trying to lock them up.
Right. Right. Might
Yeah.
have pulled them over for not having the right ID in the wrong part of space though.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. So wow, I guess I
Huh?
thought, because I never knew that the New Republic collapsed during the Yuzhan Vong War. I thought you were gonna like keep going on for like 80 years of history past this point.
Oh yeah. No. It. We don't. And the thing is, after the like after Dala is president of the Republic for a bit, then there's like the last Legends book that was published takes place in like 40 ABY, and then the Legacy series is 130. So there's 90 years in there that we don't know what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and we probably never will
Right.
know what happened. So yeah, it's just not there, you know. And yes, yeah, it is. It's kind of crazy. The Republic and the Galactic Alliance isn't that different from the New Republic. I mean, if we were to look at their constitutions side by side, I'm sure there'd be some differences, but nobody really bothered to get into that level of, you know, nitty gritty detail,
Yeah.
particularly. So all we know is that the GA is more centralized and has like the Empire as part of it,
Okay.
and that's pretty much all that we really get as far as the main difference.
All right. So in overview, what I see in canon is that the New Republic, at best, is portrayed as sort of bogged down in its own bureaucracy, and at worst is portrayed as somewhat dystopic in their programs and the way they're handling things.
Right, with the brain scorchers and all that. You know? Yeah.
Compared to Legends, it sounds like, throughout, it was much more positive depiction of them. They were not always doing the right thing. They weren't always doing it, the best way or the easiest way, but
no,
they were
they're
all trying their
Yeah.
hardest.
Everybody's working except for Borsphalia. Everyone else is working their hardest to make sure the galaxy stays. Yep.
Well, okay. That's, yeah. I think that it probably does come down to the era in which they're written, like you were talking about, because, post 2014 or 15, the Disney acquisition.
That really did change. The face of American politics, it was quite different by then. You know?
You couldn't really, after all of, I mean, we've been talking fake politics, but if we want to talk real politics, after, seeing the stuff in Afghanistan and Iran stretch on for so long, I feel like that undermined a lot of people's confidence in just blind trust of the government.
Yeah, definitely. And it's true, because, like, plus all that, like, a lot of post 9/11 Star Wars was kind of rah-rah, like, post, interventionist warfare, like, we gotta fight back and be strong, and strong government and centralized power and go to war, and
and
which,
what do you know, that's when the new Jedi Order was published.
Hey, we got this horrible foreign power from outside that's invaded us, and they have a weird religion, and they're bad, and we gotta fight. Yeah, that was the NJO, I should say, started in 1999. I should say. However, it ended in 2003, and there was quite a bit of, like, look at these weird people with their weird religion who are willing to use suicide tactics to, like, fight the Republic.
Ooh.
Maybe not the best look. 20 years later.
That might merit its own whole episode to dissect that.
Very well. And Timothy Zahn made some interesting statements about, like, the war in Iraq as well, kind of at one point, which is kind of... this is a whole other episode, though. Obviously, we won't get too bogged down in that here. Suffice it to say, politics changed a lot, and that, I think, definitely changed the portrayal of the main political good guy organization in the story.
Yep.
Which is a real shame as far as I'm concerned, because if you want to have cool big space battles, you got to have a good guy government and a bad guy government to have two big fleets.
Yes.
And if the good guy government doesn't have a big fleet, then we're not going to get a cool space battle.
Yep.
Which it happened. Sorry, guys, it did. I mean, episode 9, I guess, but, like, that was just a mess.
Right.
It's just, I didn't even know what was going on. So, pour one out. Maybe we'll get a cool space battle in Ahsoka.
Maybe,
They brought the E-Wing back. That's really cool. Did you see that?
You said they bring what back?
The E-Wing Starfighter from Legends.
Oh, that's not a ship I'm familiar with, so I did not catch it.
It is a really cool... It's from the originally, actually, it showed up as a background ship in Dark Empire.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the updated version of the X-Wing. It's supposed to be like faster and more maneuverable, but also still has a lot of firepower.
Okay.
And is higher tech as well. It's really cool. It's getting a Lego set, which is awesome. And it's back. It's shown up in several trailers to the Ahsoka show.
Okay. For anyone who's listening to this, it's going to be published much later. We're recording this where we're like 2 or 3 weeks out from the premiere of Ahsoka.
Right. So I'm sure it's already come out, and it's, either good or bad. Hopefully good at this point.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, the E-Wing actually first appeared in Lego Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures in 2017.
Whoa, okay.
Which there was a Lego Star Wars TV show that I actually I've seen some of that, but yeah, there was an E-wing in it. So it's been technically, I guess the E-wing has been back in canon since 2017, but this is its first live action appearance ever,
Yeah.
which is so cool because it's a favorite. It's a favorite ship design of mine from
Okay.
Legend. Ever since I saw the ever since I saw it, I was like, what a cool ship design. I sure hope this thing. Maybe it'll show up in a video game and we can fly it. Maybe they'll add it to Star Wars Squadrons
Yeah.
DLC. Oh man, I'd love that. Here I am. Yep.
Well,
I'm a big
thank you
nerd, sorry,
folks
guys.
for
We're way off topic at this
Yeah.
point. We'll wrap it up, I guess.
thanks for sticking with us for a whole hour of discussing the New Republic. And this has been Delta Source, your number one source for the downsized New Republic fleet that still includes really cool E-wings.
Still does include really cool E-wings. We've been Mr. Legitimacy and Good Call Paul, and we will see you all next time.
And may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, man.